Hello, welcome to the Perception Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and today we are hopefully going to change your perception on things that you thought you already knew.
The Webster's Dictionary says that the paranormal is anything not scientifically explained, which I think is probably a really good explanation for what it is. Even though you do or do not have a belief in it, it's something people want to know about, and in that it kind of does intersect with spirituality. Our house was haunted when I was around 9 years old. To feel like, your home should be a place where you feel safe, and it was not a place where I felt safe. And looking back, we had activity in the home before we even realized it was haunted. I do not go into every investigation believing everything. And I think it's so important, even if you do have a belief in the paranormal, to go in with skepticism.
Hello, welcome to the Perception Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and today we are hopefully going to change your perception on things that you thought you already knew. And today it's celebrating Christmas, so I'm going to be having a little snowflake pillow to cuddle up with. My guest, I don't know if she has anything to snuggle up with, but Sophia Temperilli is my guest today. And how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so today's topic is uh, ghost hunting or paranormal activity. I'm not really sure how best to really describe it. Being a little bit of a skeptic myself, I'm actually kind of excited to learn some uh, from your in the field experience, as it were. So. I'm excited to learn some stuff and hopefully have my perception changed a little bit, and as much as I hope for my audience as well. So, my first question, with it being Christmas themed right now, do you think Santa Claus is real? And does he still exist?
I think he's real. My little cousins get presents from him every year, so I think I would be remiss if I did not believe in a man that brings presents, because honestly, although I'm a ghost hunter, Christmas is my favorite holiday. So, like, it's not Halloween.
Yeah, you'd think it would be a little bit more Halloween, yeah.
No, I like Christmas. I like spending time with my family. I like sharing presents. Love a Christmas tree. I think it just adds like a nice glow to my room, which is always nice. You got that gamer lighting from Santa.
Ooh, gamer lighting, yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you do the typical Christmas colors of red and green?
No, no. My Christmas tree has blue lights. I had someone ask me if I was Jewish because of that. No, blue's my favorite color. Um, so I have that nice blue glow. However, my Christmas ornaments, my dad's old work, they would let him pick out like a Christmas ornament every year. So he would of course let me do it. And then I just decided when I was younger that it'd be funny to just keep picking out really obscure ornaments until his boss asks him like why. So my Christmas tree has like a Demigorgon. That was the one that got her. Beetlejuice. So like it has like random stuff because I just was like, yeah, it's more fun to just like really be like have her be like, why are you doing this?
Well, I'm glad we're able to do this to celebrate the holidays right now. So, I guess just going straight into it, how did you first get into ghost hunting?
Yeah, so I've always kind of had an interest in, I mean, like Scooby Doo is my favorite show. My parents have always been maybe not the typical parents. So my house always had kind of more of an antique aesthetic. And so I think it was a little bit of just growing up. But when I was 8 years old, my parents, like I said, not normal parents, when they were dating, they used to watch a show in the 90s called Sightings, and there was a psychic on there named Peter James. So for their 10-year wedding anniversary, most people want to go to a nice restaurant. They decided, let's go on a ghost tour. And my mom was looking at ghost tours on the RMS Queen Mary, which is like super close to where I live. And the person hosting the tours there was Peter James. So they were like, oh my God, we watched him when we were dating. We loved him. Let's go. And I just, for some reason, got really jealous. Maybe it's only child syndrome. Maybe it's just the spooky aspect. I'm not sure to this day. But I was like, why can't I go? And my parents are like, okay, we'll ask. And So after their tour, Peter always gave out his personal email and phone number. So they wrote him after and said, "Hey, our 8-year-old daughter really wants to go on this tour. Is it safe for her to go?" And he said, "There's over 500 ghosts on the ship, and they're all my friends." So I went. Their anniversary was in April. I went the following month in May. It was a dinner and ghost tour, and it would be Peter's final tour. He passed away in July of that year, 2007. So that's really what kind of got it started. Over the course of those two investigations, um, Peter knew my dad was a writer, so he asked my father to help him edit and co-author his autobiography, Heaven Can You Hear Me? And that kind of became my dad's mission. He really, he was very fond of Peter and his work. So, um, besides the ghost tour and really falling in love with the paranormal that day, we started going to paranormal events and helping promote his autobiography to get Peter's words out there. And then I realized our house was haunted when I was around 9 years old. And I moved out at 11, but by 12, I really wanted to know if there was other people around my age that were having these experiences. Because I went to Catholic school, people didn't really understand. They thought I was weird. I just didn't care. And I just didn't care. So I really wanted to know if there was other people out there like me. I did not find them, but that's how my radio show started, is I really wanted to know if I wasn't alone in these experiences. And, yeah, 14 years later on my radio show.
Yeah. 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 Wow. So, I mean, that's actually kind of rare. A lot of people kind of go till even like sometimes their 30s or 40s and still don't even know what it is that they want to really do for the rest of their lives. And at 9 years old, you kind of found your passion pretty early on. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Well, I've always been a little bit stubborn, so I think that carried through. But yeah, I mean, I think also too, when you live in a haunted house, even if I quit the paranormal tomorrow or, wanted to go get a normal job, those experiences are going to be with me for the rest of my life. I like to say now that I'm like trauma bonded to the paranormal. And so, yeah, it's like, well, I'm already traumatized by those experiences. Why not just continue? It's like, what else am I gonna do? They're there anyways. I could try and ignore them, but those experiences are still gonna be there. So might as well just keep going.
Yeah. Um, so we've said the word a few times. Um, what actually defines something that is paranormal against, say, sort of like, say, spiritual?
Yeah, so well, the Webster's Dictionary says that the paranormal is anything not scientifically explained, which I think is probably a really good explanation for what it is. The paranormal is not a finite science. I mean, it's it's something we try and figure out, but everything you do in the paranormal is really trial and error when you're talking to spirits and stuff. And so I think when it comes to spirituality, I think that's more like your faith and your belief. And even though people have beliefs in the paranormal, ghosts or cryptids or anything like that or aliens is really something people research and kind of try and find the answers to. And people do that in spirituality, but I think that's maybe something that guides them more in life than say normal where it's kind of just a big question mark. It's more it's not like a test. I don't know how to explain it in the right words, but it's something that even though you do or do not have a belief in it, it's something people want to know about and that it kind of does intersect with spirituality, even though spirituality is whether it's Buddhism or Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, Muslim, it's something that, people usually kind of use as a guideline to live their life by. I don't think people typically probably do that with ghosts. Maybe some people in the paranormal do, but I think also they connect in the fact that the afterlife, whether it's heaven or hell, people want to know what ghosts are because they want to know, why they're here and where they go because you don't see ghosts from the Jurassic period. You don't really see them from ancient Egyptian times. So they do go away at a certain point, at least as far as I'm aware, people haven't captured those spirits. And so I think they are different, but also do connect in the way that people want to know those answers because not only does it give them a better grasp on the afterlife and, you know, can help them in their spirituality, but also I think when people's loved ones pass on, it allows them to continue that connection and know that maybe their family member's still around checking in on them, or maybe, hey, they moved on and I get to know that they're at peace now. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh no, it made sense. I'm curious, um, because you kind of brought up heaven and hell a little bit. Do you think that there's a sort of like limbo, I guess, then with the paranormal, or like a sort of like I guess like a bridge?
Yeah, so I actually came up with my theory on the afterlife in 8th grade religion class.
Oh, please do share.
Yeah, so, like I said, I went to a Catholic school, and in 8th grade, they were talking about purgatory, and like I said, you don't see dinosaur ghost. You're not experiencing that. And so it made me think, where do they go? Now, do I have an answer to that? No. A lot of psychics I know say that the spirits do move on to peace. What that means, I don't know. I'm not psychic and I'm also clearly living. So I don't think I'll have that answer until I'm there. But, I think based on the fact that they do go away at a certain point, and some ghosts, after people pass on, they don't turn into a ghost. I believe that it's more of a purgatory-like state. Either the spirit is unready to move on, because they're scared of what's next, or they're waiting for whatever moves them across, whether it's their own personal journey, something that helps them. I do think that it's more of a purgatory like state based on kind of the concept of purgatory that I was learning in Catholic school in 8th grade religion class. I asked my teacher about it. He looked at me very confused. Well, it's just I just I don't think they knew what to, like I said, they kinda thought it was weird. I don't think they knew what to do with me. I just didn't care because I was like, "Well, you're teaching me about it. You might have an answer." So, I think that it is more of like a limbo or purgatory-like state. Like I said, I won't really know the answer to that until I get there. And some people believe that the ghosts and the spirits can check in. It doesn't mean that they're locked in that purgatory. They can come from wherever they are and come and check in on relatives, check in on a place they loved, or just make their presence known when they feel like it.
Gotcha, gotcha. How many paranormal investigations have you personally done, or have you really kind of kept count?
I have not really kept count. Like I said, I lived really close to the Queen Mary. I'm not even exaggerating. I've probably investigated there hundreds of times. Um, and then I've gone to Tombstone. I tried to investigate. It was really hot. I don't do that well in heat, so that didn't last very long. So it's like criminal, genuinely criminal. I recently investigated for the first time on the East Coast in Lenox, Massachusetts. I've done La Prisma Mission in, I think it's Santa Ynez. It was near where my aunt lived, and there's a lot of Santas over there, besides Santa Claus, and I get them a little mixed up. Uh, yeah, Queen Mary, the LA Police Museum, um, oh, Virginia City, Nevada. I'm trying to remember them all, but those are some of them. It's over a span of 18 years, so I get those memories either because I was little get a little lost, or I just it's been such a long span of time, you have to try and kinda chop it up to remember.
Put it all into one little bit, yeah.
Yeah, those are some of the places I've gone.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I ask you because, um, for some skeptics, I mean, such as myself, and you having done, as you've said, hundreds of investigations, I'm a bit curious as to why sometimes it really is kind of, um, I don't want it to sound disrespectful, but why is it sometimes hard to find, um, hard, I guess, physical. I really don't want to use the word physical, but hard physical evidence to support. No, we believe this to be paranormal because a lot of stuff I really feel like can be uh, easily debunked.
Yeah, so that's not disrespectful. I think first off, I even though I believe in the paranormal, I do not go into every investigation believing everything because like you said, things can be debunked, and I think it's so important even if you do have a belief in the paranormal to go in with skepticism. Even if like, hey, I saw a shadow, I think it's there. Someone from a different perspective can be like, hey, that's a car light. And it's about working together and trying to figure out what is real and what isn't, and that's so important first off. Secondly, I think it does come down a lot to the person, um because although you're skeptic, some people want to debunk everything to the point where if you want to reason away something you can, like if you see a photo of a shadow on the internet.
Like you're saying, like mentally, you can kind of really tell yourself. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because you can really convince yourself that something is paranormal when it isn't, if you want to. You can convince yourself something isn't paranormal when it is, if you want to. Because you can overthink things away with anything, not the paranormal, anything in life. And so when it comes to, hey, you see a picture of a shadow person on Facebook. Well, you don't know the person who posted it. Now, the person who posted it could have absolutely just uploaded the photo completely raw, untouched. But you don't know the person, you don't have that trust. So, of course, your brain's going to think, is it CGI? Is it AI at this point in time? And so it comes down to a lot of trust factor or seeing things for yourself. And so I don't even think it's necessarily maybe is it hard to get physical evidence? Yes, because it's hard for ghosts to manifest on that level, but also it's hard to have that trust in people you don't know. Take the Victorian times, for example. They had ghost photos, they had seances, but a lot of times those were faked. And that's the truth. And
Right, because a lot of those old photos were called composite photos, right? Where they would just put a new photo on top of an old previous one, right? Or something like that.
well, I think, like, when they would have, like, tables levitating or shaking, they would have something attached to their leg to make that happen. The photos, I'm not too detailed on that. There was a show back on in the day called, Fact or Fiction Paranormal Files. They would try and debunk that stuff, and I think they did it with, like, smoke or something or, like, a I don't even know. But, I think it comes down a lot to, some of that stuff from prior history, but also, like I said, there's AI nowadays. You have stuff that's not paranormal. People are trying to figure out if it's real or not. And so it comes down a lot to trust. Hey, do I know this person? Do I believe them? Probably not at first glance. Um, like I sent you EVPs and now they're super clear. We have not edited them, but someone listening could say, well, that's just a normal person talking. And I completely understand where they're coming from because it is a trust factor. So it's not just about physical evidence, it's about allowing yourself to believe in it. And it's okay if you don't. I fully understand because a lot of times, if you're skeptical, you're not going to really fully believe until you go through it yourself. And that's okay. There's tons of people in the field that have been researching for 10 plus years and they're still skeptical because some people don't ever have those experiences in life. Why? I don't know why ghosts do things. I mean, they're people who have passed on. So they all have different personalities, different thought processes, different preferences. Um, but it comes down to trust in what you're seeing, the person who captured it, not over logically thinking everything away, but also allowing yourself, even if you're a skeptic, to feel the possibility that something's there instead of just you don't want to be so biased towards wanting something to happen that you make something happen in your mind, but you also don't want to be so closed off that you can't allow yourself to have that experience.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's funny actually. I just had a memory kind of come up. I did go ghost hunting with a few friends several years ago, and I forget it was like a old asylum or something like that out here in somewhere in nowhere, Indiana. and we were walking around in the basement area, and it was, I mean, just the energy. It was just creepy, and I was like, I don't want to be down here, guys. I don't. But as we were walking around, I remember it was a big group of us, and me and this other guy, we were it really kind of like at the tail end of the group as we were walking down the hall, and as we're walking, from behind us all the way down at the other end of the hall, like I heard a very loud hey,
Mhm.
and like both me and him at the same time just turned around, looked down at the other end of the hallway. We didn't see nothing, and then we looked at each other and we're like, "Yep, we both heard it." Like we locked eyes and just knew, like, yeah, we're not going insane. Like we both heard that. To this day, I cannot explain what that was, how that came about. We even walked back there to be like, was it like a mist or like some kind of wind coming through like a window or something? We couldn't explain it. So, yeah. It was pretty terrifying.
Yeah, and see, you're skeptical, but you had that experience because when you're investigating, every time you go, something doesn't happen. It's hit or miss. You could go to one location and sit there for 10 hours and not capture absolutely anything. You could go 2 weeks later, be there for an hour, and capture the most evidence you've ever gotten. It's like I said, it's trial and error, it's hit or miss. And so you can be skeptical and have those experiences because it just doesn't happen on command, and it just doesn't happen all the time, and I think that's something really important that people don't know. Like, when you watch these paranormal shows, it's an hour long. They've probably been there, it's like 12 hours or days. It's condensed down, reviewing footage. I mean, you could capture something and not know it. My parents investigated on Alcatraz, and my dad took a picture down a dark hallway, and you don't see anything at all, okay? Nothing. So he went home and he decided to just turn the brightness up all the way. When he did that, and that's the only thing he did, you see a full bodied apparition down the hallway wearing tan pants and an orange shirt. And so you can take photos like that and actually get a spirit, but it doesn't mean you're gonna turn the brightness up all the way or maybe boost the audio enough to hear something. So things can happen and you miss it easily because when you're in the moment, sometimes you miss the little things. And so when you're investigating, you can go forever and not capture anything because, well, honestly, I think they do it on purpose too, just to mess with us. I mean, they're dead. What else are they gonna do? They see living people talking to them, and they're like, "Eh." They're like, "You're the 10th person this week. I'm over it."
I just had a funny thought pop into my head of like just like a bunch of ghosts just sitting around on the couch, and like there's like the 10th paranormal investigator in for like the second day in a row, and they're just like, "Are there any ghosts in here?" And they're like, I just want to be left alone. Like, please, like."
And another thing I actually wanna add to when you're saying so hard to capture evidence, I swear to you, sometimes things you will capture do not happen while you're investigating, and I swear to you they do it on purpose. Like, if you'll hear a voice like you heard, you don't have a recorder on. There's no way to prove that happened to you because they do this, I swear to you, just so you can't prove it. Because they're like, look, you can't tell anyone now, can you?" So, it's personally what I would do, so, if I was dead. Like, I'm an investigator, but it doesn't mean I'd make it easy on the living. What else am I gonna do?
Oh, I've told myself plenty of times that if there is a purgatory, uh, I'm going to make the best use of it just to mess with people for my own entertainment all the time.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where you're dealing with different personalities, you're dealing with different variables, and that's kinda just what it comes down to.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what types of ghosts are there, would you say?
Yeah, so some people, I was recently talking about this with someone, like to categorize ghosts and spirits as different things. They like to categorize spirits as someone that has moved on, a ghost as someone that's stuck. Me, I don't. I just use it interchangeably because I don't. think about it that hard, honestly. Because if the spirit's gonna pop in and say, "Hey," then now you're just a ghost at the place in my mind. But generally, the 2 different types of ghosts are residual haunting and intelligent haunting. Now, what a residual haunting is so you kind of have to think a lot of people believe that ghosts are made up of energy. And if you think of a place like Gettysburg or something, when you're alive, you burn off energy. And these repeated actions of, say, someone loading a cannon, shooting it off, and stuff like that leaves an imprint on the land. If someone is using the exact same walkway every day, that's going to leave kind of an imprint. So residual energy is usually kind of just not an intelligent spirit. It's something that's more of a loop that's kind of replayed because of the energy imprint.
Kind of like kinetic energy, would you say then? If you were to dumb it down into physics or layman's, I guess really.
I didn't take physics, so I have no idea. Like, yeah, you're like layman's terms. I'm like, that's way beyond me. Like, okay, sure. I'd have to Google physics. But it's more of like an imprint. Say that you have like a piece of clay, right? And you or okay, take hardwood floors, right? You walk on the same path every day, you're gonna wear in the floors, right? They're gonna start wearing down in one place. It's like that. So if the same thing happens over and over again, you're gonna have kind of that imprint left. Or I would say maybe like big thing that happened kind of leaves that stamp and that can replay. Now an intelligent haunting is where okay, say I ask a residual haunting who it is, but it's someone firing a cannon at Gettysburg. They're not going to answer. It's an imprint. There's nothing there to answer. Now, an intelligent haunting is a spirit you can communicate with, where I ask, "Who are you?" and they're able to say, like, "Hey, my name's John." So, an intelligent haunting is something you can interact with. Now, for me, I think one of the hardest things, maybe to prove, is a residual haunting. Because, say, if you're talking about something like Gettysburg, well, it doesn't mean that it's not an intelligent haunting because if they're still maybe in that mindset that they're in battle, even if it's an intelligent haunting, they're not going to talk to you. They're in the middle of something. And so you kind of have to think about the spirit too because they don't change. Um if they had a preference, like say if it's a child spirit, they'd be more willing to talk to a woman because given the time period, maybe their teacher was a woman. Their mother took care of them more. And so you can have male ghosts that don't want to talk to women. They don't like them. And it comes down to the individual themselves. And for residual hauntings, I think being able to prove that the same instance is happening, maybe at the same time every day, or the exact same action is happening, I think is a bit harder to prove than an intelligent haunting, but that's the difference. An intelligent haunting is something you can actually communicate with, where residual is something that's just a stamp in time.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I personally tend to lean more towards the spirit side of things personally. Um, sort of like angels and demons. Are there, would you say, angelic ghosts or spirits, and then demonic spirits as well? Or
So the demonic one I can't answer on as much because I've never personally had an encounter with one, so I don't like to necessarily talk about topics that I don't have kind of a field in. Also, never want to. That's not something I ever want to research, not something I want to deal with. There are demonologists in the field. Yes, I've talked to them, so I have talked to people that believe they've talked to a demon. Is it? I don't know. I wasn't there. I will leave that area to them. Now angels, I like, yeah, look, curiosity killed the cat. I'm not gonna be that cat. So there's certain things in the field I know not to touch. I like to think I'm like a person in a horror movie that doesn't walk down into the basement. I'm gonna leave. So I carry that into the paranormal. Now when you're talking about angels, I have talked to psychics that actually will go into places and get rid of a demon or whatnot. There's a psychic I've interviewed named June Lundgren, and she says she uses angels to help her rid these places of these dark energies. Now I haven't had experiences like that because, like I said, I don't deal in that area of the paranormal, but I have spoken to people that have had experiences with both demons and angels. Um, and yeah, I'm even though I'm an interviewer, I'm not in a place to judge. If I haven't had that experience myself, I'm not gonna judge you for your experience because just because I didn't have it doesn't mean it's not real. Just means it's something that I'm gonna probably stay away from and not find out if it's real. Like, there's no reason for you to have that experience, and I'm going to as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some experiences that you've had while you've been out and about ghost hunting? I'm sure some of the audience right now and myself kind of want to hear maybe more of the scary ones, probably. So what would you say are some of like the most terrifying ghost hunts you've had?
Yeah, so that's actually most of them. Like, yeah, it's really great. So I'm not psychic, but when I do see a ghost, it seems to be a shadow figure. Don't know why. Don't know why that's a thing. But I don't see them all the time, but they have when I see a ghost, it's a shadow figure. Super fun, not creepy at all. And yeah. So living in a haunted house was probably the most terrifying because it's not something you can escape. Now, I'm not saying that every haunted house has a bad spirit, nor am I saying that every ghost is a bad spirit. However, the ghost that I lived with was not good. It was not good at all. And it really did traumatize me because it was like living in a prison. Now, this ghost, he was focused on women. So if you walked in my house, you would not have an experience with him. And he stalked me basically from the ages of 9 to 11. 11 was when I moved out of the house, and I couldn't change. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't play video games. I couldn't do anything without him just watching me. He even climbed my off bed ladder and watched me sleep one time. And he watched my cousin while she was sleeping in my room. He would watch my mom. And that's really hard to go through when you're a 9-year-old having that attention. This spirit was probably between 19 or early 20s. He had a white t-shirt and blue jeans, and he had shaggy brown hair. He's the only spirit I've seen that was not a shadow figure. I guess I should say. And it's really hard being a young girl and having that attention on you, whether it's from a living man or a spirit. It's very uncomfortable. And to feel like, your home should be a place where you feel safe, and it was not a place where I felt safe. Um, because like I said, you just have someone looming over you. And it's very unnerving, and it's not something you can't file a restraining order on this person. You can't make him go away, and it's very entrapping. And that for me is was and is terrifying because it leaves something with you that even when you move out, like I said, that trauma is there of just even when something's not there, sometimes when you're home alone, you just feel like you're being watched because you can't necessarily lose that feeling of feeling unsafe in a place you should. And that was the hardest part. And looking back, we had activity in the home before we even realized it was haunted. My mom had a piece of metal thrown at her back from 6 feet away. My dad actually saw it fly off of the little window ledge and hit her square in the back. He tried to recreate it and throw it at her, and he could not get it to actually physically go that far. So there was instances like that when you look back. It was always haunted. We just didn't know until that period of time. Um, I also had an encounter with a shadow person on the Queen Mary in the pool area. Um, I call him the Shadow Man, which is, a little obvious, maybe too on the nose. I don't know.
It's a little easy, but yeah. It's
A little easy, but that's what else am I'm not gonna call him Bob. I don't know him.
I mean, You could, but yeah.
I could, but, like, I don't think it really shows the foreboding of the individual, um, and he would always, lurk. Apparently, I just really lurking ghosts really just love presenting themselves to me, and, he kind of just lurked in the pool area dressing rooms, which is fine. I don't care, you know? Yeah, that's just awesome, but if you go in there, there's, like, a vortex, it can make you feel dizzy, nauseous, so I wasn't wanting to go in there anyways because why am I gonna do that to myself? I don't care if it's paranormal, I'm not gonna make myself feel dizzy for no reason. You don't have a purpose. And so he would kind of lurk, which was whatever. He didn't like me, I didn't like him, that we had in common. And I filmed with Ghost Adventures actually on my last day of freshman year when I was 15. And anyone who's been to the Queen Mary pool area will know that it always has low lighting in there. Never brightly lit. I honestly cannot imagine it ever being a place you would want to go swimming in. Like, it's genuinely creepy. Like, I don't it's weird. Like, it has, like, mother of pearl ceilings, but it's like, "Okay, it's weird in here. No, pass." But, it was the
Mm,
first time that I'd ever been in there with all the lights turned off. And I can't explain this, even to this day, but it
mm.
was like the shadow man became stronger. He was in multiple places at once. He was on the upper right-hand balcony. I could like, even though it was dark, I don't know how to explain it. I could like see that he was there.
Yeah, your eyes kind of adjust a little bit, but yeah.
It was pitch black. I don't know. I think it was more like a mental image. I don't know how to explain that. Because I like I said, the paranormal doesn't really have exact guidelines or rules when it comes to certain things like that. But I wanted to say like, "Hey, this is where the shadow man is," and every time I wanted to say that, I felt like I was going to cry, which was the first time a spirit had kind of had that emotional hold over me. And so I knew he was on the upper right-hand side, and Zach Baggins, the host of Ghost Adventures, was walking that way with a camera, and he heard footsteps running at him. He got rushed by a ghost. Now, my mom was sitting in the corner because she didn't want to be on TV, and she also heard these footsteps running at him. And we caught some of the clearest EVPs that day. They were vulgar, so I don't remember if they got bleeped out or not, which I don't know, it was kinda cool, but, like, it was just, like, interesting.
That's one that you get to keep to yourself and not share publicly too much, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't remember what he said, I just knew that it was not probably appropriate for TV, which was I don't know, it was kinda cool, it was just, like, interesting, you know? Like, I knew you didn't like us, but now, you know, we get to hear it, I guess. Um And, so that I went back to the pool area one other time after that, and I felt like if we stayed there, something bad was gonna happen, and so, that's the only time I ever felt that way, where it's like, "Hey, if we stay here, something bad was gonna happen." Do I know if it would have? No, but it's something where I've never had a ghost, even living in a haunted house, that kind of had that much control over my emotions to where I don't care to go back to the pool area. I've been there so many times. Um, I don't need to see it again, you know? Been there, done that. I'm okay. But that was really terrifying to know that, you know, a ghost could affect me in that way. And with the haunted house, it was terrifying to live in it and have no reprieve from this ghost, which I know sounds crazy. It does to me too. Don't ask me to explain it. I cannot. Some things in the paranormal you can't explain. That's one of them. And
Would you kind of say though that maybe because you kind of were alluding it to earlier about it being a mental thing, do you think any of that was maybe mentally you convincing yourself a little bit or was it just different? Like you could 100% feel like, nah, this is not me. This is 100% real.
I know the difference, and that was 100% real because I've never experienced something like that before, so I don't know why I would, like, convince myself of that. I understand your questioning. I just, like it would be, like, too random for me to have done. Like, if I it didn't happen to me at my old house when I was 9, I don't think at 15 I would have probably done that. Um But, and mind you, I found out about ghost adventures when I was in my high school art class, so I wasn't even thinking about the ghost or anything. I was literally the funny thing was when I found out about ghost adventures, I was talking with a boy at my art table that loved ghost adventures, and we were talking about some of the episodes, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I remember when they filmed at the Queen Mary," and I'm like, "No, you don't, that never happened." He's like, "Yeah, it did." I go, "No, it didn't. I'm literally going there tonight. I know for a fact it didn't happen." And so I'm literally, like, talking and then we went straight from literally my half day of, like, my freshman year, final day, to Nordstrom's to go buy clothes. So I was not even thinking about the ghosts or the spirits or anything. It wasn't like I was hyping myself up. I was arguing with the boy that he was wrong, and then I was going to Nordstrom's and picking out clothes. And so it was just like a weird thing. Like, I truly if you had asked me prior to that, "Do you think this would intensify in the dark?" No. Why would that happen? Because that's not something I don't really go in there with those types of ideas just because, A, I'm not thinking about it. I'm an overthinker, so I'm probably thinking about what I want to eat the next day. I don't know. Like
Same.
I'm a paranormal investigator. I think I'm pretty chill. Like when I'm not doing like radio shows or actually investigating, like I'm playing video games. I'm not thinking about that stuff. Christmas is my favorite holiday. So, when you go into the pool area, I definitely knew this was something different. Especially because I have no problem telling you it's the Shadow Man right now, then and there. I would have had no problem prior to that experience telling you, "Hey, the shadow man's in the dressing room." No issue. So for it to have been different in that circumstance, I could say literally anything else but that. I know that it was something he was doing. How? I don't know. Um, but it was a unique experience, and it's terrifying to know that, a ghost can have that kind of hold over you. And knowing that where I was seeing him on that ledge is exactly where Zach got rushed, and multiple people heard the footsteps, one of them being my mom, I think is proof that maybe not for some people in the audience, I understand that didn't even make the cut on the show. So I understand, like I said, it's all about trust. Um, but for me, I think it's validation that in that moment, what I was seeing and what I was feeling was true. And I should add that the two places I was seeing him on the balcony, in the dressing rooms, which is his normal go-to. But, being on the balcony, he had never been before. He literally always stayed in the dressing rooms. Come to think of it, the dressing rooms were actually dark. They weren't low lit, so maybe that's why. But it was just weird to experience something like that, um, because you don't experience that every day. You don't have a spirit with that intensity. Because 'cause I've been to tons of other locations, never experienced something like that prior or since. And I think that's really unique to that location. Um, and one thing also, not I don't know, it wasn't really terrifying, but one thing that's really interesting, I guess you could say is scary depending on the person. Um, and I think this is where maybe some of the ghosts intervened when I was trying to tell it before. Um, I investigated at this location called the Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula, California. And I have no idea why, but they have old movie posters lining the halls. Now, I love film and I love old movies.
I think I know kind of the place you're talking about. Yeah, like it has a bunch of old movie posters and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, super strange. Don't know why, but like I love a good old movie, Thin Man, Glass Bottom Boat with Doris Day. Like love them. And so I wanted to look at all the old movie posters. So we're on the first floor and there's a hallway on the right-hand side. And so I'm walking down the hallway looking at these old movie posters. And the further down the hallway I go, my throat's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And I'm like, I don't want to know what happens when I go to the end of the hallway. So I told my mom, I'm like, hey, I'm done looking at these posters. My throat keeps getting tighter every step I take. And as I'm walking down the hallway back to the main lobby, that sensation's going away. My mom goes, I'm gonna ask what happened down that hallway. I'm like, "Please don't." Because if I'm investigating, leave me alone. Like, if I'm not investigating, leave me alone. Like, I just wanna be a normal person looking at movie posters, not trying to go into spooky stuff right now. And, so I'm like, "Please don't do that." And, does she listen to me? No. Um, so she runs up to the front desk attendant, who is Brandon Alvis, who's a paranormal investigator, and she goes, "What happened down that hallway?" And he said, "Oh, the groundskeeper hung himself on the floor above 5 years prior."
Nice, sweet, fantastic. And then that's where your neck is kind of getting, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that happened, and I was being extremely normal looking at movie posters, not trying to investigate, not trying to talk. So that was weird. In the moment, it was terrifying because I don't wanna know what happens if I reach the end of the hallway. Um, but weird in the fact that that happened. And like I said, some of the stuff you experience in the paranormal that can be validated for you, no one else felt that, and it's not on camera. So sometimes in the paranormal, you really have to experience it yourself because some things just are not going to be tangible evidence that you can show to everyone. I can tell you the story, but again, it's trust in the person you're talking to.
Sure, sure. Um, I just had a question pop into my head, and I've never actually thought of this, but what actually kind of defines something as like haunted, really?
Um, I think it depends. Like you said, sometimes people experience things that can be debunked. So I would say actually having a spirit there, because someone can say something's haunted and it's not haunted, and your door.
Like just a spirit?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on who you're asking because some people, if it was like a relative visiting and just popping in to say hi, your house is not haunted. It's just someone stopping in. I would say maybe a reoccurrence.
Okay, so something else kind of like living there.
Yeah, because when I said that we had experiences in my haunted house, looking back, I mean, we knew it was something, but we didn't think our house was haunted. My mom, like when she had the piece of metal thrown at her back, this happened on New Year's night. And it was my grandfather had passed away. And it was the first time my grandma had went out and really done something. He had Alzheimer's, so she was caring for him for many years. And so it was the first night she went out, danced with someone, and so when my mom had the piece of metal thrown at her back, she thought it was my grandpa saying, "Hey, don't encourage your mom to do that." And, no, it wasn't my grandpa. My house was haunted, but we didn't know that, so I would say if it's something small like that, it could just be a family member checking in, probably not throwing something at you, depending on the family member, which should have maybe been the red flag. But, I don't know why my grandpa would throw something at my mom, but hey, I didn't know him that well.
I mean, if you're trying to get somebody's attention, you know.
Yeah. So, I would say if it's small occurrences like that, that happen infrequently, maybe it doesn't mean your house is haunted, maybe it's your relative trying to tell you, "Hey, I'm still here for you," in maybe a time of need or just letting you know they're checking in on you. That doesn't mean your house is haunted, just means someone's visiting. Now, if it's a reoccurrence where every day the cabinets are opening themselves, yeah, your house is probably haunted. If you're in a hospital and you feel someone standing behind you, and you hear someone talking, yeah, it's probably haunted. So, I would say maybe the frequency and the reoccurrence rate, would show that something's haunted versus someone leaving you a penny.
Yeah, you said opening the cabinets, and it just made me think of that scene from uh Haley Joel Osment.
Oh, The Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I blanked that. Yeah. But yeah, whenever she walks back into the kitchen and all the cabinets are open and he's just sitting there eating cereal.
House is probably maybe haunted, so I'd say Yeah, and actually, when you're talking about that too, so the psychic I was telling you about earlier, so his mom was very religious. Peter James, was the psychic I was mentioning earlier, and he could see ghosts, right? So he had these playmates that everyone thought were imaginary friends, and he played the piano, and every night the piano would play. So his mom would beat him, thinking this was him doing it, until one night he was somewhere away and the piano was playing itself. And these imaginary friends, the boy and the girl he had, were actually a real boy and girl that had died in a fire next door to his apartment building. And they found the newspaper article of these children that had died. So that is a haunting, something that's happening reoccurring. And I think that's important to note too, is sometimes, his mom doesn't think the house is haunted. She thinks he's doing it, but he's not touching it. And so scenes like The Sixth Sense do happen in real life to real people. And sometimes, that can be hard to believe. And, like I said, piano happening once, maybe something fell on it. Your ceiling hopefully is not leaking and it's falling in on a piano. Or maybe your house is haunted. You gotta figure it out. It's figuring out, maybe this is an old house, maybe it's not haunted, the wood settling, or yes, I hear footsteps in the ceiling and there's no one up there. Hopefully.
Yeah. So haunting doesn't necessarily mean, because I feel like popular media has taken the word haunting and just basically said, "Oh, it's evil and spooky and scary." So it may be a little spooky, maybe a little nerve-wracking at first and a little tense for some people, but haunting doesn't always constitute a bad or like evil sort of presence then.
No, because for Peter, these were these were just children. They were his friends. He said that they are my friends. Those weren't bad spirits. They were just kids that saw another kid and they just wanted to experience that. I remember I had a girl contact me after high school and she said, "My house is haunted. I need help." Well, I'm not psychic, so I can't really tell what's there. So I contacted one of my psychic friends and I said, "Hey, this girl I know, she says her house is haunted." And so he's a remote viewer. And what that means is that you give him, like, I just had him on my show, you give him the first, like, basically the numbers of your address and the street name. Nothing else. You can't look it up on Google Maps, none of it. He can see your home in his mind and he can remotely view it. So he did that and he said that for this girl this was not a bad spirit. Now she thought it was because it was scaring her. It was hiding her stuff. It was closing doors. It was doing things that were frightening her. And he said, "This is a spirit of a little boy and he's trying to distract you from something in your life that you shouldn't be worried about." And she said she was worried about her friend and some of the choices she was making in life, and basically this spirit was trying to get her to stop doing that and help her and have her not focus on things that were causing her distress. So sometimes when we don't understand things, it can scare us, but it doesn't mean that that's the intention of the ghost or the spirit. They sometimes can be trying to tell you something, but it's a little bit hard to communicate when you don't have that physical element, which is a voice people can hear at all times, or a touch where someone can see you coming and you know not be freaked out by a random hand that shouldn't be there, like a ghost, because that would that would scare anyone, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to dive a little deeper here. Um, you said that you were raised Catholic, um, and Peter James himself was also religious. Would you consider yourself a little bit of a spiritual, maybe even a religious person? And does that have any sort of effect on you as someone who investigates the paranormal at all?
I would say, like I said, it really kind of helped guide my beliefs into what the afterlife is in regards to ghosts themselves, that they're in a purgatory state. I like the idea that, there's peace, whatever that means. But I don't know that it guides me because for me, I know it sounds strange, but even though I'm in the paranormal, it's hard for me almost to take like my aunt passed away, and it's hard for me to almost put the two worlds together. It's hard for me to think of the afterlife when it comes to the paranormal and where my aunt could be. Probably rolling her eyes because she was super logical. And so when we asked the psychic about her and he barely got anything, he's a really good psychic. I know that was just my aunt so annoyed that we even tried that. And so it's one of those things where, it's hard, I think, when it comes to personal things to sometimes understand your feelings and combine the two worlds. Um, so for me, it's like, I developed my beliefs in Catholic school, but also it's hard to kind of, even as someone that went to Catholic school and deal with that, put the two worlds together. Like I was telling you prior to the show, my dad's adopted. In that house that was haunted, my dad had actually lived in as a child up until the age of 9. His adoptive father actually used to guard the Pope in Vatican City. And he was a Palatine guard. He was basically the Secret Service for the Pope. He wore the black suit and tie. Now, the reason my father moved out of the home when he was 9 was because my grandfather, a very devout Catholic, was a paranoid schizophrenic. And so my dad had to move out for his own safety. But when my grandfather was living in that home, he was a ward of LA County and he was not taken care of well. He died with no electricity, no heat, nothing. And I think sometimes it's a little bit hard when it comes to the paranormal and faith because you see someone like my grandfather that devoted so much of his life to the church, into everything, and he had such a horrible end. And you just want to know that he got what he always wanted, which was heaven or peace of some kind. But not knowing that, I think, is it's a little bit hard to use faith to guide the paranormal, because you see someone that put so much love and devotion in it, and they were in a house that honestly I think was haunted when he lived there and may have affected him. Not that he wasn't mentally ill, that the ghost there could have preyed on that and made him worse.
Hmm. Yeah. That's I can understand that that's a little tricky.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Now I don't shoot down anyone's beliefs in anything. I have cousins from varying religions, and I think it's so important, if you can be in the paranormal and have that belief. I know tons of people like that. I just think for me and some of my own personal experiences, it's hard to combine the two when, you knew someone that just loved my father so, so much, even though, it wasn't his biological child, he was adopted, and never got to watch him grow up.
Yeah, I'm very sorry for that. Yeah, that must be rough. And yeah, that's
It's okay. I didn't
to say. I really did. I wish I had better words to say right now. I mean, yeah, it's the great mystery, you know.
It's okay. No, I didn't say this story to, like, make anyone sad or anything. I never met him. It's just, you have a care for that person because, all my father's stories of him were just how wonderful he was before, the fall of his mental health. And so I think it's one of those things that for me, it's always hard to contend with the two because of that knowledge. But I'm okay. You don't have to be sorry. You don't have to be worried. I'm, like, totally good.
Yeah, no, I'm just I really feed off of people's energies really well, and I when people get sad, I get sad sometimes. So, and then other times when people get sad, I'm always kind of like, suck it up. Like I'm a tough love kind of guy too. At the same time, I don't know how I do it, but um, so I do have to ask you probably a burning question that I'm sure a lot of my audience may have, and even some skeptics that may be watching this. I know that a lot of TV is scripted, and a lot of TV is we have to have a very interesting show, in order to maintain viewership. Like there is a business side to TV. Um, I guess because you having this experience of being on Ghost Adventures, how much of that experience would you say was kind of scripted and kind of production led, and how much of that was really kind of genuine?
So I didn't film the whole episode, so I cannot speak to every single moment they do, just because I think that would be wrong of me to share that information.
Oh no, I'm throwing you under the bus right now.
However, when you're talking about my experience filming that night, specifically the pool area sequence, I would say, um, the scripted portion of it would be when we walk up and talk to Zach. That was a few takes, mainly because, interviews, you wanna get people's names right, you wanna make sure you have your questions right. So that portion of it where you're walking up and meeting him, you do a couple takes, okay? That portion of it is, but that's not investigating. Now, when you're talking about is the investigation part scripted? Nothing that I witnessed during my investigation with them in the pool area was scripted. There was nothing I saw in the episode regarding my portion of that investigation that they had edited or scripted. Did they cut down on stuff? Yes. Zach being rushed by the ghost did not make it. But from my knowledge, that part wasn't. Now, I have heard of some shows where things got a little bit complicated. I know there was a show that filmed on the Queen Mary back in, I don't know, 2008, 2007, and, I don't know that this was the cast or crew of this show. I know that the team members had found footage of a blanket being pulled back. And I recall that on the show, when they were reviewing footage, they found that someone had altered that. Not from the cast members, from what they thought someone who worked on the ship had actually rigged it. So I know that there's some things that have been shown that, you know, the show itself said, we didn't do this, but this is not paranormal. Um, Does that happen often? I don't know about the behind the scenes of a lot of shows. I would say likely not. When you're talking about scripted, it's more like the talk ups, the history, because you have to. You have to make sure you have like, historians could probably talk about history for like 10 hours, so you kind of have to make sure you have a script where you hit all the points and make sure it's good. So it's the normal things like that. As for the investigations, to my knowledge, they are not. They're cut down on time. Audio's enhanced to make it louder, normal things. As for if they're doing nefarious stuff, I have no idea. That's just my knowledge on it, and an example of one instance where a show did have something happen that was a bit untoward, and they acknowledged that happened, and on my experience on Ghost Adventures, they did not do anything that was sus or shady. Can I speak for every episode? No, and I just wanted to say that disclaimer because I'm not omniscient, so I cannot speak for every paranormal show, just because I feel that would be a miss for me to say something and someone's like, "That's not true." I'm like, "I don't know." Like, "I don't know, I'm just an investigator, unfortunately, I don't really run the field, nor would I want to, that seems like a lot of people to manage, and I'm just gonna just stay where I am."
Yeah. Yeah. Having been on a couple of commercial sets, I can definitely tell you there's a lot of people running around and a lot of people like, no, we need to, you know, time is money. So, yeah, yeah. So whenever you talked about the historian part and doing those interviews, like I can definitely see them being like, "Hey, like, wrap it up, dude. Like, we got."
Let's redo To review that, can you maybe say it a little bit clearer this way or, like, shorten the 4 sentences into 1? So that stuff, yes, absolutely has to be. That's for you guys as viewers, believe me. When it comes to stuff, if you see it on TV and you're like, "Hey, that can be easily explained," it does not mean they're faking it necessarily. It just means that when you're shooting these episodes, think about, they don't have much time to review footage. Sometimes there could be something paranormal in it, they completely miss it. The viewers will see it. Or sometimes something can be explained, maybe you don't catch it because you only have so much time to edit the episode and review footage. So sometimes things can get missed. And that doesn't mean someone's being shady. Again, can't speak for people exactly, but sometimes, if something is pointed out by a viewer, they'll correct it like, "Hey, someone pointed this out, not paranormal. Thank you for this person for pointing it out." So, just also bear in mind the fact that, like you said, there's timelines, schedules, and sometimes things can be missed, whether it's evidence that they didn't see or something that can be explained and they didn't notice it in that moment. Because when it comes to anything the paranormal, it's always good to have a fresh set of eyes and multiple eyes because you cannot do everything yourself because it takes so long.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I just want to play devil's advocate. I do understand. And again, some investigators will can't speak for all YouTube channels. I was trying to find like Japanese investigators to have on because that would be really cool. However, Japanese seem to be really interested in horror films. So a lot of like the paranormal channels are scripted and they will say that. So some things are for entertainment and they will say that, but you kind of have to figure it out when it comes to like the internet. I would say mostly.
The trust in the person, as you've eloquently put it. Yes.
And also the knowledge that there are not just doing like Blair Witch ghost hunting things just for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So so sticking with the theme of this show and changing people's perceptions, how would you, in your own words, uh, like to change the perception of paranormal activity or even ghost hunting? Because I feel like there's a uh, me being skeptic, I don't necessarily have like a negative light towards anybody, like, oh, it's all fake or like it's not real. Like there is just stuff that sometimes just can't be explained, you know. So I'm curious to know how you would like to change that perception today.
Yeah, so I mean, like some of the things I've talked about, it's okay to be a skeptic. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. There's, like I said, tons of skeptics in the field. You don't have to be a believer to be in the paranormal. And you don't have to jump in the paranormal if you've had an experience. It's something that, you can learn and grow with. And you can have an experience. I just had someone I interviewed. They had an experience when they were a teenager, didn't actually start investigating until 10 years later. Also, like I was saying, not every spirit is bad. Just because you're scared in that moment doesn't mean that that's what they're trying to do. It doesn't mean it's not. Again, they're ghosts, they get bored, easy target. But it doesn't mean that they're malicious or demon or trying to hurt you. Could just be a prankster. Could just be someone trying to get your attention. And I think it's important to know all the nuances and that each case is different. Also, when you're investigating, sometimes the physical stuff can be more dangerous than the actual paranormal. And what I mean by that is if you're going into an abandoned building, asbestos, tetanus. I've had people on.
I didn't think about that for a second. Yeah.
I had a guest on this couple and they said that the girl sat on a bench and she sat into a rusted needle. That scared me more than a lot of stories on my show because, like, ooh, that's so physical. I've had a guest on named Keith Age, and he was at Waverly Hills, and they were doing a live stream, and he hears this buzzing noise. He's stepping on this rope type thing, so he thinks he's stepping on a power cord. And he thinks buzzing is electricity. He goes over the footage later. What is he stepping on? The tail of a bobcat. Yeah. So he's lucky he didn't get bitten. And I've had guests on that talk about urban exploring. He says walk around near the walls because the most stable place, if there's flooding in a basement, is not the center. You will fall through. You also have people that are squatters, and you don't know if they're territorial, they have mental illness. So it's always good to really pay attention to the physical aspects of the paranormal and not just the ghosts themselves.
Bring protection.
Very, very, very important. Um, yeah, that's a perception I would like to change. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is not that. Also, if you're investigating, um, don't jump into fields you don't understand. Like if you want to investigate, don't start out looking for like a demon. Don't do that. I mean, you can, but I would not recommend it.
Yeah, you can. It's just it's ill-advised. Yeah.
Wouldn't recommend it. So the perception that I would like to change is sometimes the most dangerous part is actually the living or the physical. Not everything you encounter is bad. Sometimes you just have to look at the situation in the perspective and see what is it trying to tell you? Or what am I supposed to know from this? It could just be a family member checking in. And also, don't just dive in the deep end. I think that's a perception of a lot of people. I have to buy the most expensive equipment. I have to go to the most haunted location in the world. No, probably don't do that because A, equipment's really expensive. You don't need it to investigate. You can investigate with your own senses. You can use like a $20 recorder at Target. Genuinely, those work really well. You can use just a camcorder. Okay, you don't need expensive equipment to investigate, and also, take your time. It's okay. You don't have to dive in the deep end. So those are some perceptions. You don't have to be an expert immediately. It's okay to ask questions. Make sure to be safe when you're actually going and doing things. Don't trespass. I want to add that.
Yeah. Please do everything legally. Yes.
For the safety of self and also just like the stigma, like we're not like burgling people. Like please don't please don't throw that on us. Just like so like be chill about it, okay? And like I said, not everything is out to get you, but also be careful because like I said, don't just go to like Goatman's Bridge and be like, this is whatever. Like, because you could get a demon. Not saying you will. Don't. I'm not saying they're real or not. That's not my area expertise. But watch what you're doing because it's not something that you should necessarily play around with in that way. I hope that answered your question well.
Yes, it did. It did. Um, and I wanted to ask you, but first, I actually kind of want to share a little bit. I came across a video, and it scared the daylights out of me because, of course, y- I don't know. Do you do that thing where like it's late at night at bed and you're like going to bed, but you're really just laying in bed scrolling through reels and whatnot?
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much just like doom scroll throughout the day. Before I'm going to bed, I just like I'm an overthinker, so I'll just like play music on YouTube so I can just like stop overthinking. Like if I just think about song lyrics, maybe I'll go to sleep. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was scrolling through, and of course, like I said, of course it's at night and as I'm about to go to bed. But I came across this video where this dude was in the forest and he dropped something like that went down into like what was honestly a pretty big hole, and he's just kind of talking to like his GoPro audience, I guess, and it's just like, yes, now I just got to grab this, and then from inside the cave you hear this voice go, help, and then he was like, what? And help. And he kind of like took a step back because it doesn't really sound like someone is in a desperate situation. So he's a bit terrified. So he takes like a stick or a rock or something and then he throws it and it goes in the hole. And then like 2 seconds later, the same thing. comes right back out the hole. And then he just starts taking off running. He's like, nope, nope, I'm not even messing with that. And some people in the comments were saying it was a cryptid or like a skinwalker. I have full transparency, no idea what any of that means. So do you have any explanation as to what a cryptid or a skinwalker could possibly be? Because, like I said, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, so a skinwalker, from my knowledge, is more of like a shapeshifter. They come from Indian folklore. Cryptozoology is not. I'm more ghosts. That is like a whole field. Cryptozoology is like a thing. Cryptids are. I wanted to make sure I had a proper definition. So they are things that I guess are creatures that have not been officially found, is what Webster's dictionary said, because I wanted to make sure I had a proper explanation for people. Um, but typically cryptids, what you think of when you talk about cryptozoology. Big ones, Mothman, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Jersey Devil. So it's all of these big creatures that people know about that there's no like tangible proof of. I would say skinwalkers probably fall into that because I guess they're shapeshifters, so you can't really catch them. But Bigfoot is probably like the top one. Loch Ness, Jersey Devil, Mothman. I know there's a oh my god, it's like the Hands of the Baskerville. I just talked to a British person about it. They're like these black dogs that are seen in England. I think they might just be called black dogs, but they're those type of creatures that are not exactly human, so they can't really fall under ghost category, but they're also not like a zebra.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I've seen that Sherlock episode where he actually finds out the Hounds of Baskerville. Um, I don't know if you've seen that show, but there is an episode where he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just a gas," and like, "I'm Sherlock Holmes and I'm so smart." So,
Yeah, so unless Baker Street has some more answers, cryptids are creatures, at least the study of them, of creatures that have not really been kind of placed in that typical biological. I don't know. I don't know if I like if someone found Bigfoot, I don't know if you'd place him under like zoo study or whatnot. So I don't like what like I'm like, what do I classify that as if someone found him? Um, yeah, so that's cryptids. What they would be if someone found them, don't know. Genuinely, I don't know what you would put Bigfoot under. This is my problem. I overthink things. This is why I had problems watching Halloween because I'm like, why are you carrying a gun, Loomis? It doesn't even do anything. That's so off track, but that's, like, where my brain's now going with Bigfoot, that it's like, well, if they found him, I'm like, would he be a zoo study in biology? But, yeah. I hope that explained it, even though that was, like, genuinely don't know where that went.
yeah, no, it sounds like it's kind of like a cross between the living and paranormal-ish a little bit.
So it's the Loch Ness Monster.
It's a mystery. Yeah,
Yeah. Things people have pictures of, can't find. Guess you find unexplainable tufts of hair. But then also I think there's that, like, cross thing where, like, I guess they're finding, like, maybe stuff to show that, like, dire wolves never went extinct, so I think you also have that thing about, like, cryptozoology is animals that they can't find, but is it animals they can't find or, like, maybe animals that have never been discovered or evolved? So it's a bit, in my opinion, at least, kind of crosses a lot of scientific genres.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, to wrap up here, I'm gonna ask you one last question. What are your, I guess, hopes and your goals for the future coming up here in the remainder of the year and the start of the next? So,
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I worked on a project earlier this year, and for me, growing up in the paranormal, I love the paranormal and all things spooky. I think that it's fun to get to see things. I live in the city. Seeing abandoned places or historical homes that I don't see every day has always been so fun
Mhm.
and interesting. But growing up, and turning into an adult, I think learning the stories of these people and who is the person that is behind the ghost has become so much more interesting. So for me, my hope and my
Mhm.
goal is to continue getting to explore and learn more about the people. I did an
Mhm.
investigation um, this past January in Lenox, Massachusetts, at Edith Wharton. She is a Gilded
Mhm.
Age author who wrote Ethan Frome, Age of Innocence, and I investigated there and talked to the spirits there, but learning about her as a person and her life, I think is was so interesting and fascinating to not just see the ghost as a ghost, but as a person in learning that
Mhm.
history. And so for me, my goal is to continue doing that and kind of expanding upon more of the historical elements that, when you're 10, you don't think about. It's not
Yeah.
something you think about. And so for me, my goal is to continue highlighting the stories of the people behind the ghost or the spirit,
Mhm.
and sharing their stories because I think that is so important, especially when you're talking about someone like Edith Wharton. People know her books. They know the legacy that comes with her writing, but they don't know her. And I think when you're dealing with people like that who are notable, I think their life gets lost in their work. And I think it's important to remember them as they are. And so I would like to be able to use the paranormal to highlight those people and their stories and share the real people behind the ghosts, behind their work, and really show more about, I guess, the living parts of them.
Yeah. That's very admirable. Very admirable.
Thank you. I like research. So it's fun. You get to hear all the things and people, I mean, specifically Victorian people, they did weird stuff. So getting to learn about that too. It's not just really admirable. I mean, you get to hear stuff and you're like, "Oh my god, you did that?" Like, "Oh, you hid that fact. That's pretty crazy you did." Like, you're not gonna talk about it in life, but hey, it's not exactly a living anymore. Maybe you can tell me more about why you did that. And so it's interviewing, I guess, the dead and getting to hear their stories.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, just real quick for me, and I get well, and the audience as well. Just let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I am the host of the Ghost Host Show. It is now on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. You can listen there. Every Saturday, we upload new episodes at 12 p.m. Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. GMT time. We've had some really awesome international guests this year and some incredible guests from really all over psychics, paranormal investigators. We're gonna have on Bigfoot people soon. We had to start over like a past year, so we're rebuilding the log of demonologists, Bigfoot people, UFO people. So you can check it out and kind of learn about all aspects of the paranormal there. You can follow me on Twitter at Sophia Temperilli with 1L and the show at Ghost Host Show. You can also learn updates about upcoming guests on Facebook, the Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli. You can watch some past interviews on YouTube, the Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli, Instagram at Sophia Temperilli, and my website is sophiatemperilli.com.
Sweet. Well, awesome. I'm so glad that we could get you on the show today. Um, this has been educational, so I'm very glad that I got to have this experience. So I hope my audience feels the same way too.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I hope I helped answer some of your questions about the paranormal, even if I somehow go on a tangent about the movie Halloween. And I hope I helped your perspective on the field.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
If you like today's episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and I will see you in the next one later.